I'm excited today because I get to talk with David Crowder, man, and just really excited to have you on the podcast today. David, I don't know if you remember this, but you came on the show. It was probably 4 or 5 years ago, and I can't remember what record came out at that time, but I was at Yosemite National Park in my car with a microphone interviewing you, and it was a very memorable experience for me. Happy to have you back. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Your surroundings look more contained,
Yes. Yes, less
less
wild.
expansive. Yeah, less expansive. But it seems safer where you are right now
It is. It's a little safer.
from
Yeah,
the nature. Yeah, you're
absolutely.
safe from the natures.
Yeah.
Looks like you got conditioned air and everything. It's great.
So, David, talk to us a little bit about like I see you're there kind of in the basement there in your home studio, and I wonder
Yes.
what a typical day is like for Crowder. Like what's kind of a normal experience for you just in terms of creativity and writing?
Okay. Well, I can't answer to that today because it started with we're trying to find a water leak in our yard. That's
Oh,
how the
okay.
day started. Oh yeah, and we don't know where it's coming from, and we're hearing
Sprinklers.
some. That's what we think. We think it's got to be something with the irrigation system, but we hear some pump that we don't know where the pump is turning on. There's a motor that turns on, and suddenly this spurt of water comes up through some bushes, and we have no idea what's going on. We don't have no clue. So then I'm like, "Hey Tony, I've got to go. I've got a podcast to do. This is so yeah. My, I've got my I've got my top part on or my hard clothes. Yeah, lower body. We got yard work clothes on. Yeah, I'm trying to look presentable sitting in the basement here talking to
I
you
appreciate that.
after after wallowing around in our lawn mud. So yeah, and I've left them with no help. Yeah, it's like sorry guys, I don't know what that noise is and don't know why the water is spurting like it is. Let's call some professionals.
So a normal day starts with yard work?
It tends to be kind of hectic around here. My wife does like I wouldn't call it contract work, but or like a contractor, like a construction situation. But she does. That's what she does most of the time. So if I'm home, I'm like her gopher guy. I am the handy dude that gets the handy things. I'm getting tile samples and stuff like that. So
Right.
yeah, when I'm not working, I'm working.
Yeah.
and And bizarrely, a lot of songs come while you're doing, just mundane tasks. A lot of times, lyric will pop in, or a little melody will catch my ear, and I'll be whistling along. Whistle while you work, they say, and it tends to be functional. It's getting me by.
That's brilliant. So are you constantly capturing ideas like on your phone when you're just out and about?
I won't go immediately to the phone because I've learned over the years when I come back through and scroll through those voice memos, they're really awful. And so
So
I think of
uninspiring.
yes, it's like I don't know why I would think to record. I wouldn't record that, but then it's me that recorded it. I was like, I wouldn't do that, but I'm like, you did that. But so I tend to now rely on if it's sticky enough, it'll stick around and I can retrieve it later. I do a lot of lyric ideas writing, in notes. I do that. That feels like that's been way more productive for me than melody. I think melodies sometimes if you got a right lyric in front of you, they sort of they attach to them readily. Whereas a melody, I've had less success putting words to something that I've already got, as a melodic idea in my head. Those tend to be more laborsome.
Yep. S-
So yeah, I'm learning too.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, David, because you've been making music for a couple of decades, at least,
Yeah, yeah, at least.
longer, probably. You know,
Who's counting though?
yeah, I don't want you to give your age away. I mean, that's
Someone
just
is.
rude. You're a timeless
I
artist.
exist I exist outside of time and space. That's what I meant, not timeless, yeah. I'm very timely, but, outside of time and space. Who can
Yeah.
count that?
But
The
like
years.
what have you learned about songwriting and creativity? What are you doing differently now than you were doing when you were a young artist?
Man, it's completely different, and I think that's what I've learned about creativity and how things are made, that there's they can be you can go about it a billion different ways. I mean, just even, like, simple things like the way that Ableton Live works. That's a program that lots of people use to create music in. I've got great friends, and none of us, when we talk about the software, we all talk about it in a different way because we're all using it very differently, and it's yet the same tool we have in front of us. And for me, the songwriting deal is much more collaborative. I've got a couple of guys that I've been writing with over the last few record cycles that we've just got a groove and all kind of play a role in the process. I usually am the idea guy. I pop in. One thing I do that I never used to do, now I'm all about song titles. I've just
Okay.
got a page of notes of song titles. And in the past, I had never named a song. I didn't have a name. You get to the end of the album making process, and they're like, "Hey, so what's track 3 called?" And I'm like, "I don't know. What do you think it should be called?" You know? I just thought, surely the professionals can spot what the title of the song could be. It's probably the lyrics sung most, you know, and that tended to be how it happened. But yeah, now it really begins with a title, and it's simply because I read a little blog post or something about this country writer who's like, "I've never written a song in my life without having a title in my head first." And I was like, "That seems like a really smart thing to do. I should try that." And sure enough, it's and over the last couple of years, that's changed. Maybe the last couple of records. I think I probably started with the maybe Milk and Honey doing that. So it was like last record
Yeah.
prior to Christmas record. But yeah, that's been so now I'll walk in with a song title, plop it, you know, I'll just actually what I'll do is I'll start reading the list of songs in my song title note page and then look and see if anybody I was like, read like a line, you know, like a line. Anybody? No, okay, nope, not next. You know, what about lions roar? They're like, oh, you're in a. Let's see, we got a feline phase you're in, Crowder. But you know, then something will stick and catch the room, and then we'll roll with that. And you know, obviously, you've got a title. This is what makes it easy. You've got some idea of what the content might want to be.
Right.
And so yeah, that is very, very different than as I said, I haven't done that before in my writing process. So things change and evolve, and I think that keeps me interested as well.
Yeah. Well, I'd imagine that just helps you kind of write about one thing rather than having just a random scattered song that's about 13 different topics, you know? Okay,
It
let's
does
focus.
It does narrow the deal, yeah, a lot because I think in the past, you know, I would describe it as it's almost like putting a puzzle together, you know, you would come up with a lyric section, and then you're like, "So what is this trying to say?" And so it kinda be, you know, backwards engineering, like construction trying to construct a thing that did have, you know, holistic like a whole that said one thing, but you just started with a bunch of pieces, and like I said, it seems more like putting a puzzle together. This feels like engineering with an outline in mind ahead of time, which is strange because I really when I go into the album making process, like the whole thing, I, I've always had an idea of what I want to do that narrows the field a bit. I'll sign a record contract with my label. We've been the label since the beginning, Six Steps Records, which is a part of Capital CMG,
Mhm.
and it's usually a 3 record deal. And so I figure if I'm signing a contract to do 3 things, then I ought to have an idea of what I'm gonna do for those 3 things. It just makes sense to me. It's how my head works, and so I usually have an arc for that 3 album, time and period for me. Like the last, deal, I did just kind of a loose outline of Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and so you wound up with Neon Steeple, which is very, you know, sort of zoom out, go, you know, Google Maps. And then the American Prodigal was more intimate son relationship, what it means to be called a son or a daughter. And then the last one was I Know a Ghost, which was obviously very Holy Spirit oriented. But at least I had like a, an outline of the construction as a whole. And in this period, it's been Promise, Exile, and Return. And so Promise was the Milk and Honey album,
Yep.
and that was easy to talk about when you're in the middle of pandemic crisis. You know,
Yes.
surely it's going to get better than this. God said it would get better than this. And then now we're in the exile phase of things. So thus very straightforward titling The Exile. And coming is the return. So it's
Right.
really I need that kind of boundary setting, as you said, to at least know what I'm talking about in general. It helps me rather than just write about whatever you're feeling today after being in the water
Yeah.
in your lawn.
Well, it's a trilogy, you know? There's, like, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and then there's the Crowder trilogy, you know? Like, it's putting it all
I
together.
I appreciate that. I'll take that reference. I'm no Tolkien, but I just need simple things to help me zero in on what I'm trying to say.
There you go. So David, I don't know if anybody else thinks like this, but I do because I'm a worship leader and I've led your songs for forever, a long time. And so your music is like it's worship music, right? But it's also kind of CCM Christian music. And I'm just curious from your perspective, like, do you think about those two categories at all? And I know those lines have
Yeah,
blurred in recent years. Like worship music is very like mainstream Christian music today. But do you think about that? Like, I'm going to sit down and write a worship song, or it's like, no, I'm just going to be true to who I am as an artist. And if it's a corporate worship song, then great.
that is a wonderful question, and yes, I do, but most of the time it's whatever's when the faucet's on, it's just the faucet's on,
Yeah.
and so as I'm saying, I've got these ideas that I want to communicate, or that my head and heart are contemplating. At the same time, it's I feel very I don't have a lot of control of what's coming, it feels like. It feels more definitely much more of an inspirationally driven writer. If you call me on a Wednesday and say, "Hey, Wednesday at 10, we're gonna write a great song." If I show up and I don't have my little pail or bucket that I've put all my stuff in, it's just gonna be a I'm not gonna be of much help.
Yeah.
But as I was saying, I do collect along the way, and when I'll come in the room, I already have kind of ideas of what I'm wanting to say. But it's been in these moments where all of a I'm working in the yard on something, and suddenly this little phrase pops in my head, and I'm like, "Ooh, I like that," and then start mulling that over, and some more phrases come around it, and so I've got then I jot those things down. But in terms of horizontally oriented lyric ideas, sometimes I'll be thinking in a way that's more community based or individually functionality of what does it mean to be a human in relationship with the divine while here on planet Earth. I kind of find those more horizontally oriented songs. Sometimes they will lend themselves, if I think about it a second more. Oh, well, this also could sing a different way and allow us as a community of believers to express that same sentiment to God, and it flips it. So honestly, my preference is to write songs the church can sing, but
Yeah.
a lot of times that's just not what's coming out of the faucet.
Right.
This is really fun to discuss right now because while writing the Exile, I knew I really wanted it to be horizontally based, to be more about the earthy. What does it mean to be displaced? We're all, we all are exiles. As soon as we, left communion with our Maker in the garden, and here we are messing stuff up real early on in the story, and all of a sudden we're not where we're supposed to be, and things are not like they're supposed to be. So we're in exile, but beautiful things happen there. And so I'm trying to express how you can still have hope in the promise that we were singing about in Milk and Honey. But you can still have hope. I mean, some of the best stories come in exile. Daniel, goodness, Shadrach, Meshach, that's exile. Esther wouldn't happen without exile. The whole Jewish nation is saved by crazy circumstances through this gal. That wouldn't happen without the exile. So there's beautiful things that can happen. I'm trying to say. So I'm writing these songs. I'm like, this is great. This is exactly what I was hoping for. And then all of a sudden, I'd be in this writing session, and I'd be like, this is an amazing song, but this doesn't go. This isn't for the exile. Like, and
Yeah.
that's weird for me. Usually, every song I write will wind up on an album. I'm not a guy that like John Foreman will write 80 songs, and
Right.
then he picks 10 of them, and I'm like, that just blows my mind.
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot of material just sitting around, waiting to find an album. And so it was really confusing, and this kept happening throughout this whole writing process for the Exile. until I'm this dim till suddenly I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm an idiot. The return is happening at the same time as the exile, because I knew that I wanted the return to be completely corporate, that every song on it was for the church to sing, and I'm just hoping that the faucet will turn on that way when I get there, knowing that that's what I want to do. And then I'm like, oh, unbelievable. These were coming at the same time. This is the exile, this is the return. And suddenly I felt not crazy, and also thought this is like the best job on the planet, knowing that you're just barely here, and you're just trying to get things, sorted. Again, back to the puzzle, sorted in a way that can be consumed in a helpful manner. And
Yeah.
so, yes, very, very aware of what fits in a corporate setting. And that's a very broad thing. I like to think of it in liturgical terms, but for some settings, you'll have songs that would work universally, and then some churches are a little bit more progressive. So there's also in my head pretty broad scale of this could work, but won't work everywhere. Oh, this is going to
Yep.
be one that can be sung in a lot of spaces, but I don't chase those things. It's really just whatever's coming out of the faucet is what I have, in front of me to steward. So
Yeah.
that's been my approach the whole time.
Well, I saw you recently. You were at Epcot here in
Yes,
Orlando, and
that was such a bizarrely wonderful thing. I had no clue that they did such a thing. It was part of like a flower festival, I believe.
yeah,
It was
exactly.
horticulturally oriented, and I didn't know that I could be a part of such a thing as that. It
Did
was
you
great.
did you write a horticultural themed song while you were here?
No, but they did have some beautiful topiaries. Those things were pretty impressive. Yeah.
um, but anyway, and I was shouting out your name from the crowd, and you completely ignored me. It was pretty
Um,
offensive,
I'm
David.
sorry, I'm pretty self-involved while on stage.
No, but the point I'm trying to make is your concert, some of those songs were vertical, but probably most of them were more horizontal in nature. But still, it was like people were worshiping, you know? So even in those like horizontal expressions, people are still like, hey, I'm agreeing with this
Mm,
truth. I'm claiming this promise, you know? And I think it was just
that's
a
so
kind of a cool experience of, yeah, the vertical, like I'm singing this to you, God, those are great. But sometimes just the horizontal songs are like, hey, I'm going to worship in agreement with what this song is saying, you know? And the whole place was doing that. It was awesome, you know?
That's well said. That's what I love good preaching, and that's what it feels like to me. There's
Yep.
an exchange happening.
Yep.
Some truth is told, and you're like, yes,
Yep.
amen. I believe with
Right.
you, and that is a perfect descriptor of how I feel while we're doing that. Music is just so I don't trust it at all. It's so sneaky, and it's a wonderful way to form thoughts and beliefs because it's so sneaky. You just find yourself singing along with stuff that, like, my humps, my my lovely lady humps, like, you're just, and you're not even thinking about what you're saying out loud. And that's why I'm terrified of my job, and I also think it's a beautiful thing to get to do what I do, is that we're telling each other, as I said, what it means to be alive and displaced, and how can we know that there's grace, how can we know and experience redemption. And I feel like that's what I'm doing, is speaking the gospel over and over. I feel more of an
Yep.
evangelist than anything, even
Love that.
though my songs are so very much in the church music lexicon.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was hoping with this new record, David, I was hoping for like a re-release of Our Love Is Loud or Oh Praise Him, but instead we get a
Instead,
fantastic
you're
collection of new songs.
that goes deep. Those are deep, man.
Deep cuts.
That was such a fun season, though. Like the "Oh Praise Him," I'll never forget that song came to me on a plane flight from Texas to Atlanta, and I was just there's that airplane noise, and I
Mhm.
kind of was just listening to it, trying to figure out what key it was in, and the harmonies in the very distant air noise. And then I was looking out the window, and there were these little dust particles floating, and all of a sudden that whole lyric just spilled out. And by the time we landed, I had programmed music for it and written the whole thing, and then I sent the music to the band, and we did it that night at this college
Are
gathering,
you
and it was
serious?
oh yeah, it was one of those that was an amazing thing to be a part of kinda deal. It was like, this is crazy, and then that song stuck around for a bit. I loved it,
You
that
know
little
that
piano part.
every worship team I think on earth did that song, but I don't think anybody ever got it right because of the
Well,
timing,
there's
the
yes.
counting.
Well, at that time, this is nerdy Lord of the Rings trilogy stuff that nobody cares about but me. I was messing with threes and fours. They were kind of like, you know, if you have a, some people have like a lucky number or whatever. Well, I've always loved the number seven. It's so biblical, and the whole thing started in 7 days. It starts at the beginning. So seven was my deal, and I always thought of it as the divine, three and four, the earthly. And so I would put just, you know, a 3/4 bar in the pre-chorus in one section, and then you know, a 4/4 bar in the same pre-chorus the
That's so
next
cruel,
deal.
David. That's cruel to do to worship leaders.
I I just thought it was nerdy cute. I was trying to be cute, you know. I've I've since stopped some of that.
I love it. Yeah, David, rapid fire here because I got to let you go. Let's do these are just some irrational questions that are interesting to me. And
I'm gonna get them all right.
yeah, so but like
I'm gonna nail this.
so the Exile, right? So if you could only sing one song on this new
Ooh,
record, like if you could do a one song concert, what
mm.
would the one song be?
All My Tears, and it's a cover of a Julie Miller song, but Buddy Miller's on it, an
Ah,
incredible guitar player, producer. But Buddy, yeah. And then so it's a one song concert. Also, Buddy has to be there.
okay.
And so yeah, then it would be a great that would be a great night. That would be worth the travel, and everybody else would be pleased as well, I think. Buddy sounds so good on this record, man. It's crazy.
Oh, it sounds
But yeah,
great.
that would be
Yeah,
it. All My Tears.
love it. So not even a song that you wrote, huh? That would be the one.
Yeah, I usually find those are really great. Those that I didn't. I'm trying my best over here, bro, but
Yeah.
there's some really good songs out there.
If you could only make a record with one instrument, what would it be, right? Because I've seen you play. You play a lot of instruments. Behind you there, you got
Yeah,
lots of different synthesizers and things back there. But
it
like,
would
what would it be?
it would definitely be the piano. Yeah, just you know, you can cover
Really?
a lot of ground with it. Yeah, that would be it. It could hold down a night with the piano, I believe.
There you go.
I've seen people do it. I've seen it done before.
Yeah, a few
Yeah,
people have done it.
seems like you doubt me, but I think it'd work.
I saw you play the piano at Epcot, and I was like, man, this guy's got it. He's got the chops. This is good. I was thinking you were going to say the banjo, but no, he
Yeah,
couldn't do a
it would be
whole
tough to
record.
hold down. That'd be rough. Yeah, it, the banjo has a lot of jokes about it for good reason.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. What's your most prized piece of gear, David? Like, what's an instrument that you
Ooh.
would never sell?
It is an acoustic guitar, and I call it Ray. It's a Gibson, and it's like a 1946, and I found it in New York City, and it had Ray, the guy's name, I'm guessing, guy's name in sparkle gold font, and I was like, "Who's Ray?" And the guitar shop's owner's like, "We have no idea," and I'm like, "Well, I'll take it." And so Ray has been with me for a long time. A lot of songs have come out of Ray.
That's
I don't think
amazing.
I'd let that one go. I mean, I'll you know, hold loosely, but if you're having to name one piece, that I would be it would be difficult.
Yeah. Well, maybe in heaven one day you'll meet Ray
Find Ray?
and be like,
Man,
Ray,
I thought it was this dude that was in Driving and Crying, and I got to meet him, and I was like, "Hey, bro, I think I have your guitar," and I've been waiting years to ask him, and I show him a photo, and he's like, "Oh, man, that ain't mine, but how much you want for it?" I was like, "Never, no, this is not going anywhere."
that's awesome. Well, he is Crowder. The record is The Exile. As we're recording this right now, it's like a week away from release. So it'll likely already be available when you listen to this. But David,
Mm.
really appreciate your time, man. Thanks for hanging out with us. Let's do this again sometime.
Absolutely. Maybe pick a national park or something and
Yeah, let's do it.
hang.
Would love that, would love that.
Yeah,
Thanks,
out
man.
in nature. See you, dude.
Appreciate
Great
it.
talking to you.
Yep, see ya.
Same here.
Bye.
Bye.